Welcome to Today's Homeowner with Danny Lipford. Expert advice on improving your home from the pages of Today's Homeowner magazine and remodeling contractor Danny Lipford.
Well, welcome to the show this week. You can see Lee's in the process of cleaning the paint off of the window from the freshly painted window. Also, we'll be installing a light fixture here, wall-mounted light that the homeowners have selected, and that'll completely finish this outdoor covered porch. Now, that's what we'll talk about this week, is how to construct a porch like this and some of the design ideas like vaulted ceiling, wood ceiling, and also all the many options that are available for porch floor surfaces and a patio area as well. So if you're someone that likes to spend a lot of time outdoors, we've got some great ideas on this week's show. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. There's a number of things you need to consider when you're designing your outdoor living space. First of all, if you have the opportunity to cover the porch, you'll find that you'll use it a lot more during the year, considering the hot and rainy days that are bound to happen occasionally. But one of the things that you need to consider is making the area large enough. Now, this area is about 12 by 21 and is plenty large enough that if we have a grouping of like a patio table here, you'll still have room for any other activities and more single chairs here. Also, access to the interior of the house is very important. Here we have a doorway that'll lead straight into a kitchen that's being remodeled. And also, you have a double French door set that'll go here, going into the den that's positioned on the back of the house. Also, two large windows, one on each side, will give plenty of light into that den, because that's one of the concerns many homeowners have, is they don't want to really limit the amount of natural light into this den because it can be very dark. To ensure that won't happen in this case, we've installed two large skylights. Actually, one is already installed that's approximately 4 foot by 4 foot. The other will be installed later in the day by the roofing contractors that are currently putting on the shingles up on the roof. Now, another consideration when you're building a roof over this, when possible, vault the ceiling or raise the ceiling as high as you can, because this gives you a much better feeling of space out in the area, as well as if you're in a hot climate, it allows the heat to rise up out of the space that you're occupying and using. But it really does add a nice look to it when you're able to really open it up like this. Also, if we ever have a chance to recommend to the homeowners, instead of going with plywood on the ceiling, smooth plywood, we recommend a 1x6 V-groove. Now, the 1x6 material that we're using is a pine wood, and of course it has the tongue and the groove shaping to it, and then the little V groove really gives it a nice decorative look once it's installed to look like it does here. Of course, the wood works well on the ceiling as well as on the wall sections that we have on either side of the porch. Now, of course, most homeowners will not have an air gun like we have here to shoot in the finishing nails, but you may consider renting one at the rental center. Only rents for about $25 a day, and may be well worth it considering the thousands of nails that are necessary when you're installing this type of material. Of course, it looks a lot better than plywood, but naturally costs a little more, and of a porch of this size will add around $300 to the materials and labor costs you'll have. Now, of course, we've talked about a lot of considerations here as far as the shape of the roof, the size of the room, or size of the outdoor area, but what do you do with your floor? Now, the homeowners here decided to stay with a concrete slab for the floor surface of their porch. Now, this is a broom finish surface that's on this, and how we did this is when they were pouring the concrete, just prior to it actually really setting up, we took a broom and drug the broom across it to produce this type of texture, which is always a good idea on any exterior surface like this, because it can get very slick in the event of a rain blowing in or just heavy humidity conditions. So this is always a good idea to have something to keep it from being so slick. Also with concrete, you're going to have expansion and contraction cracks occasionally, and by the control joints that we've put in here, or expansion joints, they're able to crack within these joints instead of out in the surface of the slab, which can be very unattractive. Also, by staying with a slab like this, the homeowners could choose at any time to install another floor surface over this, such as porcelain tile or slate or split brick, many other surfaces that can be glued directly to the slab like this. Now, another option is washed gravel or exposed aggregate slabs. You see these quite a bit around swimming pools and sidewalks, and when we come back, we'll show you exactly what's involved in installing one of those kind of slabs. Stay with us.
Get ready to review your fix-it list as Danny and today's Homeowner Magazine repair and maintenance editor Joe Truini show you this week's simple solution. Brought to you by Dodge.
We're about to start a project where we're repairing some brickwork over this door, so it's a good idea to cover a freshly painted door like this with plastic. The problem there, if you staple plastic around it, the staples are very hard to get out without disturbing some of the wood surface, but Joe's got a way around that.
The trick is to take an ice cream stick or even a couple of thick pieces of cardboard and tape them to the bottom of the stapler. Then, when you fasten the plastic to the wood casing around the door, the staple heads stick up a little bit.
And because the staple sticks up like that, after the project's over with, you can just snatch the plastic down, take your pliers, and pull it out without really affecting the surface of the wood at all. Now, this is more of a temporary measure and much better than using any type of tape, because after you do some brick repair, you'll want to wash that brick down, and this will hold up real well. I mentioned earlier how important it is to allow enough room when you're planning your outdoor living space. Well, the homeowners that constructed this house a few years ago thought they allowed enough room in this covered area, but by the time they put their patio furniture, a few potted plants, and a little shelf unit here, they realized they didn't have quite as much room as they thought. They realized also that they used this area quite a bit for entertaining and wanted to expand it a bit, and they found a way of doing that by planning on pouring a concrete slab to extend out into this area. Now, previously this area just really didn't work well for them in terms of the flowers and shrubs they had planted here because of poor drainage, poor soil, and inadequate sunshine getting into this area. So it really didn't break their heart to increase their space here out into this area. It's 13 feet by 20 feet, sufficient room to really make it work for them. But another problem they had when they designed the house is they positioned their outdoor air conditioning compressor units here, and it really created a lot of noise during the time that they used the outdoor area quite a bit, because this is when the units were working overtime during the warmer months. Also, the echo effect coming off of the bricks really made a lot of noise. To solve that, before pouring the slab, they had the air conditioning man relocate these outside this double wood fence and also planted shrubs around the air conditioning units to really quieten them down. So that works well and gives them a little extra space. Now, to cover up these utilities and everything that's on this wall after the slab's poured, they'll have their carpenters come in and build a little countertop section here with some decorative wood on the front, a nice countertop, which would be a perfect little area considering the nice wide overhang to have 3 or 4 little bar stools here for an outdoor sitting area. Now, the slab that's being poured is not your regular concrete slab. It's a washed aggregate or exposed gravel type finish on the slab. And it's a very interesting process we'll show you, but one of the first challenges we have is how to get this heavy concrete up the hill from the street and into the forms. A motorized wheelbarrow is the perfect machine to transport the heavy concrete up the hill to the forms. Now, this machine will hold approximately a 1/4 yard of concrete, which is about the capacity of 5 normal wheelbarrows. Of course, it's not completely effortless with an incline like this. Now, we're pouring approximately 3.5 cubic yards of concrete in this slab, so a number of trips up the hill will be necessary. Now, this part of pouring an exposed aggregate slab is very similar to any other concrete slab. A concrete rake is used to spread the mix, then a good straight 2x4 is used as a screed board to establish a rough grade. Next, the bull float starts smoothing the surface. Now, to match the score joints in the existing patio, the finisher uses a joining trowel to cut in the 4x4 patterns. Now at this point you can really start seeing the differences between a regular concrete slab and an exposed gravel or washed gravel slab. Now if this were just a regular patio slab, the concrete finisher could take his broom, put a nice light broom finish on it, and pretty much he'd be through for the day. But to really obtain the washed gravel look, you have one more step. Now this material in the pump-up sprayer is available at home centers and masonry supply houses, and it's basically a surface retardant. And what it does is it prevents a small layer of the cement on top of the slab from actually setting up. That way you're able to later on wash that off to really expose the gravel, hence the name, exposed gravel slab. Now let me show you this complicated process. Actually, it's not a complicated process. All that's needed is a simple water hose and sufficient pressure to really wash off the thin layer of cement that's on top, exposing the gravel down below. Now, of course, the challenge you have anytime you're pouring a new slab against an old slab is the coloration difference that can happen. Now, here we're looking at the rocks, new ones versus the old, really blend in fairly well, so this should look great once all of the washing is complete. Now, of course, with an exposed gravel slab like this, you will pay a little more than a regular concrete slab because it takes a good bit longer for the concrete finisher to finish his work. Also, at the concrete batch plant, you're having to add several hundred pounds of the pea gravel in order to really have a successful job like we're having here. Now, stay with us. When we come back after our Best New Product segment, we'll show you how everything looks and how the old blends in with the new once it's all cleaned up. Stay with us.
It's time to check out this week's Best New Product with Danny and today's Homeowner Magazine Editor-in-Chief, Paul Spring. Brought to you by the Home Depot.
Well, Danny, talk about life imitating art. This is the ceramics collection. It's from Mica. This is a plastic laminate floor, and you used that imitating wood, but in this case, the plastic laminate is imitating something else, ceramic tile.
Well, they've done a good job in simulating that with the grout joints and the appearance of the texture. It really does look like ceramic from a distance, but I understand it has some advantages over ceramic.
Well, it does. It won't chip, it won't break. It's not as cold in those Tootsies early in the morning in the winter. And it's a fairly soft floor because it's installed as a floating floor.
Okay, now most of the laminate flooring we've installed have been the simulated wood planks, but this comes in squares, and I guess the installation is relatively the same.
It's really the same, Danny. It's, as you can see, they mill a tongue and a corresponding groove on the product. Glue is applied to that, and then they're clamped together. The floor isn't actually nailed down per se, but it's glued together, and that's over a thin foam
pad.
All
right. And a variety of colors and patterns to choose from.
Exactly. There are 3 different patterns and 9 different colors, lots of choice.
Okay, what about cost?
About $5 a foot.
Okay, all right, now I think the popularity of laminate flooring has really been driven by the great warranties they extend, but Formica's taken that a step further, I understand.
Well, they have. The typical warranty for a product like this is 15 years. The same applies here. But it also applies to wet areas like kitchens and bathrooms. As long as you have it professionally installed, Formica will back it up for those full 15 years.
Well, welcome back. You know, it's been about a week now since we poured the washed aggregate slab, and it's all nice and dry and really blends in well with the 8-year-old concrete slab. Now, the homeowners have gotten everything nice and clean out here, and they've started putting a few plants around to give them an idea of how they'll end up landscaping around the perimeter of this area. Now, like I said, this is an 8-year-old slab. This is a 1-week-old slab. It blends in fairly well, even though a little color variation there, which should change after the new slab gets a little more weathering. Now, this is just one of many ways of providing a decorative finish on a concrete slab. Another way is with stamped concrete.
Stamped concrete is a great product. It's a very cost-effective way of creating the look and texture and feel of natural stone, but the strength and durability of concrete. It's done by actually placing concrete in a normal fashion, and then when the concrete is where normally it'd be finished, that's when our work begins. We begin to color the concrete with a color hardener, which actually hardens the surface as well, and then we use release agents to accent the color before we imprint it with specially designed tools for the job. And it just gives you a nice, cost-effective, beautiful surface.
Stamped concrete can provide you with a number of very impressive finishes for your patio or porch surface, but you'll spend a lot more money, actually twice as much as we spent on the exposed aggregate slab here. This about $3.50 per square foot for the materials and labor, whereas stamped concrete will be closer to $7 to $9 per square foot. Now, many homeowners are choosing bricks to serve for their flooring on their porch or their patio, which can be installed over a concrete slab or over crushed stone or sand. Also, concrete pavers have become very popular over the last few years because many homeowners feel comfortable undertaking this task themselves. Like bricks, they can be installed over crushed stone, sand, or a concrete slab. Another option could be ceramic tile, but ceramic tile may not be for everyone because ceramic tile can get very slippery when it gets wet, and the grout can really collect dirt, which might be a problem for the person who's trying to keep that ceramic tile clean. Also, if you live in colder climates, the thaw-freeze cycles can loosen those tiles and can create a very dangerous situation. Now, one of the big advantages of ceramic tile is the wide variety of finishes that are available, and all the different selections of grout colors allow you to really customize the look of your porch or patio. Now, regardless of what floor finish you select for your outdoor area, drainage is extremely important, and it needs to be considered very early in the project. And when this house was constructed with the covered back porch, the slab on it has an elevation or a grade that allows any rainwater that blows up in there to flow right into this drain basin. Of course, all of the patio is directed to where the water can go directly into the drain basin. Now, the drain basin is about 1 foot deep, and the actual pipe for the drainage from the basin is about 3 inches above the bottom of that basin, so that any of the sediment or any leaves that may slip through the grate will settle down into that area and will not flow through or possibly clog up or restrict the flow of water through the drain line. Now, the drain line from this particular basin goes right under the new slab here and right to another drain basin located right on the outside of the gate here, so that any water that gets in this new concrete area or comes down off of the retaining wall can flow right under the gate and into that one. And then, of course, there's a pipe there that carries it on out to the storm drainage out by the street. So this will prevent any chance of any ponding, puddling, or flooding that may take place in this particular part of the house. Now, no matter what finish that you select, if you're not handling your drainage properly, your flooring will deteriorate quicker and it'll really look bad very quickly. Now, stay with us. Next, Around the Yard.
Now, let's go outside for Around the Yard with Danny and lawn and garden expert Jennifer Brennan. Brought to you by Scott's Lawn Products, for a great lawn, guaranteed.
I hear a lot of homeowners talking about dethatching their yard. Jennifer has a way to determine if you have a thatch problem in your yard.
And Danny, this is great. By digging up a section of your turf, you get to see the profile. And down here, you'll see the roots down in this area. This is the blade of grass up here. And this area right along in here where you see the decaying stems and root systems, that's the thatch. That's called the verdure. And a 1/2 inch of thatch is actually healthy. It acts like a mulch for the grass plant. But when you get more than a 1/2 inch, then it restricts water from going down to the roots and nutrient from going down into the roots. So
well, how do you prevent it?
Well, actually by fertilizing at the proper time, mowing at the right height, that will prevent it from building up. You also want to make sure you have well-drained soil. And the proper way is to core aerate, and by doing that, it opens up an area so that the water can get down, the nutrients can get down, and then it brings soil to the surface so the microorganisms can break that thatch down.
Well, the gas grill's in place, the patio furniture's in place, and this covered porch area is ready for the homeowners to start enjoying the outdoors. Now, one of the changes they made during the course of the job is to install a slate over the brushed concrete that we showed you earlier in the show. And they made a wise decision using a dark grout because grout can stain very easily outside. Now, I hope we've been able to give you some good tips if you're about to develop an outdoor living area, because if you're like most people, your outdoor living areas are just as important as the inside. We'll hope to see you next week.